Imagine a coastline. Picture white sand beaches stretching for miles under a warm sun. Imagine five-star hotels reflecting the golden sunset, glass skyscrapers towering over a bustling marina, luxury yachts docked in deep blue waters, and a booming economy that rivals Dubai, Monaco, or Singapore. A place the financial world calls the Riviera of the Middle East. Now, delete that image. Look at the reality. This is the same coastline. Right now, as we speak, this is one of the most destroyed places on Earth. Millions of people are displaced. An entire infrastructure has been erased. The air is thick with smoke, not sea breeze. But while the world looks at this strip of land and sees a humanitarian crisis, some powerful people in Washington and inside high-level real estate boardrooms see something else entirely. They don't see rubble. They don't see tragedy. They see opportunity. They see prime waterfront property. Welcome to the Gaza Riviera plan. It sounds like a dark conspiracy theory or the plot of a dystopian novel, but leak after leak and statement after statement from the highest levels of influence suggests that there is a blueprint sitting on a desk in D.C. right now, a plan to turn a war zone into a luxury tourist destination. Today, on NextGen USA, we're not just looking at the war, we're following the money. Who wants to build this? What happens to the millions of people who live there? And is this the real reason behind the silence on the day after plan? To understand this, we have to put aside politics for a second and think like a real estate developer. I know, it sounds cold, it sounds heartless, but that is exactly how the current geopolitical machine views the world. Let's go back to a moment that went viral, but many people ignored the deeper meaning of. Jared Kushner, a former senior advisor and a massively influential figure in the current administration's ecosystem, spoke openly about Gaza's coastline. He didn't talk about peace treaties. He didn't talk about borders. He said, and I quote, "Gaza's waterfront property could be very valuable." Valuable? Waterfront property. When you look at a map of the Mediterranean, Gaza sits in a prime location. It creates a direct line of commerce between Europe and the Middle East. It has miles of untouched beach access. From a developer standpoint, if you completely ignore the human cost, it is an uncut diamond. It is the last piece of undeveloped prime real estate on the Mediterranean Sea. The rumor circulating in Washington circles and confirmed by several leaked concept papers reported by outlets like the New York Times and The Guardian is a project often dubbed Gaza 2035. The idea is bold, ambitious, and controversial. The plan is to flatten the remnants of the old cities and build a free trade zone. Think of it as a Singapore-style entity. The proposal suggests it wouldn't be run by Hamas, it wouldn't be fully run by Israel. Instead, it would be run by a coalition of private investors and Gulf states, protected by private security or international forces. They want to build a deep-water port to bypass the Suez Canal complications. They want a high-speed rail link connecting the Mediterranean directly to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf. But here's the billion-dollar question. You can't build a resort on top of a refugee camp. You cannot have five-star dining next to a humanitarian disaster. So, for the Riviera to exist, the people currently there have to go, or at least they have to move out of the prime real estate zones. This brings us to the most controversial and, frankly, the most terrifying part of the plan, the thinning out strategy. Currently, 2 million people are squeezed into a tiny strip of land. If the U.S. and its allies push forward with a development plan, where do these people go? There have been proposals, some rejected, some still whispered about in closed-door meetings, of moving the population to temporary cities in the Sinai Desert or creating humanitarian islands. Critics call this ethnic cleansing disguised as urban planning. Supporters call it voluntary migration for a better life. But for my generation, for Gen Z, looking at this unfold on our screens, it feels like the ultimate eviction notice. It feels like we're watching gentrification, but on a horrific military scale. The message seems to be, leave your home so we can build a hotel. We have to ask a difficult question. Is the total destruction we're seeing intentional preparation for this construction? I'm not saying there's a conspiracy, but any urban planner will tell you one simple fact. It is much cheaper to build on flat land than to navigate narrow, crowded, historic streets. By erasing the infrastructure, the ground zero for the Riviera has effectively already been prepared. So who pays for a project like this? We're talking about $50 to $100 billion. The United States isn't going to pay for it. Our national debt is already skyrocketing. The current America First doctrine says we don't want to spend, we want to make money. The plan relies on the deal of the century logic. The money is expected to come from the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar. The logic is you pay to rebuild it, and in exchange, you get regional stability and a cut of the profits. But there's a catch, a massive catch. The Gulf states have publicly said they won't pay a dime unless there's a path to a Palestinian state. So we have a stalemate. The U.S. wants the Riviera, Israel wants security control, the Arabs want a state, and the people of Gaza just want to survive. And don't forget the U.S. corporations. If this Gaza 2035 plan happens, who gets the contracts? U.S. construction firms, U.S. security firms, U.S. tech companies for surveillance to build the so-called smart city. This isn't just foreign policy, this is a stimulus package for the military-industrial construction complex. The world isn't buying the sales pitch easily. European leaders are calling it a violation of international law. The UN has condemned any plan that changes the demographics of the Strip. But, as we know with the current geopolitical climate, international law only matters if someone enforces it. And right now, the momentum is on the side of the developers. So, what happens next? We're likely going to see a soft launch of this idea. They won't call it the Riviera immediately. That's too insensitive. They'll call it reconstruction zones. They'll call it safety corridors. They'll talk about modernization. But keep your eyes on the coastline. Watch who buys the land. Watch which companies sign the contracts in the coming months. History is written by the victors, but the future is built by the developers. The question isn't can they build a Riviera in Gaza. The engineering exists. The money exists. The question is what is the price of that luxury, and is the world willing to let a civilization be buried under the foundation of a five-star resort? This story is developing every single day. As leaks come out from the White House, we will cover them here on NextGen USA, because this isn't just about the Middle East. It's about a new world order where everything, even a war zone, is an asset class waiting to be traded. I want to hear from you. Is this real estate plan a pragmatic solution to end the war, or is it a moral catastrophe? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new here, this is the only channel digging into the future of America's impact on the world. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell. I'll see you in the next one.